All right, so this is a update on the Nixie tube relay clock, and so I finished the second PCB, which is the minutes counter. Although here it's showing seconds because the power leads that I put on it are too short to go there. Went pretty smoothly. Did things a little bit differently. The layout is generally the same, although stuff was a little tight between the second set of digits and the control logic, so I added some more space there, and I brought these connectors down more towards the edge of the board in anticipation of the design of the hours counter. So what we have here is power supply coming in. It's 5.7 volts. There's a 32 kilohertz oscillator, which I divide down, 32,768, which I divide down um, in these dividers. And so I'm picking out the 1 hertz signal. It's coming in. There's 3 connections. There's the reset, the pulse per second, and then the carry out. And so then I have the carry out on this orange wire coming into the purple, and that comes in as the pulse per minute for the minutes counter. The gray, again, is the reset, and so if it's on 19 right now, I can just hit that with 5 volts, and it resets the counter back to 00. And then the carry out here would be then used to clock the next hour stage. I laid them out, like I said, pretty much the same. The one big change I made was before the relays were sitting on pins from those terminal strips, and it wound up really hard to put the relays back. And so I did this method. This is the hours counter. I did this method where I just left that terminal strip intact, and I just broke it off. And then and it stabilizes it, and there's still room for all the components to go in between. And so this is the layout. It's pretty much the same as for the minutes, although there's additional logic that we talked about before for handling the conversion to base 12, base 24, base 10, and so forth. So I got that soldered in, got the high voltage power supply. Haven't really done much else. I'm going to do the diodes, then do the resistors, and so forth. I'm still actually working on the design. This is the layout sheet, and I have all the connections put in to handle the clocking part, and there's still some relays that'll be used to handle if you're saying AM, PM, or the 1224 stuff, and the transistors still haven't worked on yet. But my design's solid. I have the prototype, and I can still build. I mean, I can build all this stuff except for this logic as I'm finalizing my pretty picture, because I know it all fits. So it's cruising along. Wish I had the other digit to show. It's been, again, still, this gets handled a lot. Been very robust. Nothing has, crossed my fingers, nothing has broken on it. The only thing I did mess up on, actually, sorry, it's this. When I assembled, when I initially put the relays in, I put the relay in upside down or backwards, and I noticed later when I saw the photo that these contacts were moved over, but I still wrote 40A on it, and so it wasn't working. A bit would get stuck there, and I couldn't figure it out. And I put it on my tester, still couldn't figure it out. Oh, but on my tester it was upside down, and it took me a little bit to realize, oh, it's upside down. I just need to put it in the right way, and so I just put a new relay in there, just so I don't have to remove what the label says. So I'm happy with how things are going. Like I said, the minutes certainly went faster. It was 4 days, but then it was an hour the first day, and probably 4 hours to do everything but the purple and the transistor, and then the last day I probably spent 5 hours doing all of this. So at the same time, I also made wiring harnesses. These are, the socketed wiring harnesses for the Nixie tubes that will mount in the front panel. And I can make this count faster, and it can probably go a little bit faster. Eventually, the transition time is similar to the relaxation time of the relay, and so you wind up overclocking it, and a bit gets lost. But again, happy with the design, and it sounds really good, and I, can't wait to hear it, click over, every single digit. And of course, I still haven't begun work on the Arduino control GPS time sync. And I haven't designed that board because all these connections for the carry and the clocking are going to go up to that fourth PCB so that, the push buttons in the front panel can activate them. And the Arduino can do that as well. And again, I haven't actually designed that, but, these are all, logic level signals that go to transistors to actually drive the relays. And so it doesn't matter right now. I know I'll be able to design something for it. Just been really focusing on getting the counter stuff done. Anyway, so hope to have the hours done at the end of the weekend, and I'll have the Nixie tubes. I'll be able to demonstrate actually the full clock, sitting out here. And then these boards, they're going to be, I'm going to have standoffs. And so in the chassis, there'll be a board on the bottom. There'll be these brass standoffs. You screw those in, put the next board on it, more standoffs. And so all 4 boards will be stacked up. So I haven't figured out if this power supply will be good enough to do 4 boards. The heatsink is kind of, it's warm, so it's doing its job. If I have another board, I'm not sure if that'll be too much current. I think right now this is probably 700 milliamps, and so it'll be, an amp, so it'd be, 5 watts to power the whole thing. So that still remains to be seen if I need a second power supply or maybe just a better heatsink. Anyway, hopefully I'll have something to show on Sunday or Monday. Thanks for watching. Bye.